Well, welcome, Heather. Today, I would love to talk to you um, about your business, right? And so, just to introduce everybody to you, this is Heather Sams. She was franchise number five, I think.
Four.
Four, excuse me. I'm so sorry. You're franchise number four, and you just sold your business.
I did.
So you have been through the entire cycle. So I'm so excited to talk to you and let other people hear your story because to me, this is why we started the franchise was to help people like you that were photographers that we could help be profitable and have a grow a business and then actually have a business that has equity in it that you could sell at the end. And you have done that. So I'm so proud of you. We miss you, but I'm so excited for you to be able to tell your story. So,
For
thanks.
giving me permission to ramble.
You can ramble. I think that anybody that, and the reason that we're doing this, um, is just to let people know, like, you're real people, and you converted your business. That's the main reason that we asked you to do, this conversation with me. But let's go back to the beginning. Um, what inspired you just to start your preschool writing photography? What inspired you to start a photography business?
Um, Gosh, I was active duty Army, and when I got out of the military, I eventually started working for a portrait studio because photography is what I've loved since I was a little kid. I've always wanted to be a photographer, and this opportunity came my way where the studio was looking for an assistant, and I remember offering that I would work for them for free. I just really wanted to be around it, and I worked for quite a few years, and by the time I decided to step away from them, my youngest was 3 and really needed me to be full-time mom and pay attention to some pretty significant needs. And then by the time we got her really in the right direction and really handled understanding what she needed, I still was very hungry to be a photographer, but I wasn't wanting to go back to work for a studio. I felt like I had enough foundational knowledge about it that I could start my own business. And I did. And there was a lot of around that direction. I wasn't sure if I should start my own business or if I should go get a job, but the prayer that was said over me was that God would open the right doors. And boy, did he open doors. He opened them very quickly. And in fact, one of my very first photography jobs was a preschool. And they took a chance on me. They were ready to never have picture day again because the experiences that they'd had in the past weren't very good. And we talked through them, and I promised that that would never happen again. And that school I've worked with 19 years. So having some of those long-term relationships was a big part of, I think, starting my business. But nonetheless, I went through all the gamut of families and weddings and seniors and kids and you name it, everything that would come my way because many photographers, when they get started, are, they'll take everything,
Right,
photograph everything.
right.
Honest to goodness, did you know that I photographed a funeral? Honest to goodness. I was
No,
like,
I thought
I
I
was
knew
like,
everything but about you, but no, didn't that one
uh,
I did not know. Wow.
photographers photograph everything. I photographed mechanics, shops. Honest to goodness, you photograph everything because you just need money coming through. But anyway, I always knew I wanted to have a camera in my hands, and it just felt natural to just start that journey, and I did. And like many photographers, because you take everything, you also don't learn the lessons. Or some photographers, and I was definitely one of them, where you buy equipment thinking, oh, I'll pay this off really quickly. And, and you kind of dig a hole. And before you know it, that hole is so big that, you're struggling. And then a lot of photographers get to that burnout and everything because they're not doing it right or they're not doing it wisely. And it was a natural thing to get started. I always loved light. I've always loved people. Photography was just the right avenue for all of that. So
Right. So how long did you have your independent business before you joined us? Was it 13 years?
roughly,
About 13 years you
yep.
were doing it on your own.
Hmm.
And I'll never forget when I met you. So you were so excited and your face just lit up when you saw what we were offering. But why convert your personal business to a franchise? Like why would you do that?
Well, there was some pretty big challenges that I knew I was not handling well. And the business model that was being put in front of me at a trade show in a 10-foot booth that, that was starting to fill in some of those, they were starting to answer some of those challenges that I was struggling with and had struggled with for so long. So, for instance, the marketing pieces of it, like at the booth that I had visited when I was standing in front of you, so excited, you were showing marketing pieces that were beautifully done. And not only did it show the imagery, but it showed just this beautiful marketing piece that I have said and had laughed about for years. I was like, I am not a graphic artist. I'm a photographer and I try and put together marketing and it stinks every time and it's proving I'm just not doing well. So that was um a big piece of like, I don't have to design my own marketing. Are you kidding? That was just one challenge that it answered right away, right then, that I didn't even know that. So I just didn't know I was looking for, but I was. So there
Well,
were others.
and what else? Like what else enticed you to convert?
Well, I met you at the PPA's convention, Imaging USA,
Mhm.
and Imaging USA always has this massive trade, which is like a big candy store for photographers. And I had attended that conference for quite a few years before I met you. And the Professional Photographers of America, I grew up in it. The studio that I worked for, they were longtime PPA members. There's sets of standards and things like this that were kind of beat into me. So when I would go to this convention and then of course the trade show, there was a lot I knew about the industry because of the Professional Photographers of America. And one of the benchmark standards of business, PPA was able to define. They could define what a struggling photography business, what their numbers look like. They could tell you one that was kind of doing it okay, and they could tell you the numbers of the guys that were doing it really right. And I knew all those numbers because I'd studied them. And when I stood at your booth and you all were telling me that your numbers were far beyond what the percentages were, what PPA was bragging about, that the guys that were doing it right, I remember crossing arms, standing back 1 foot, looking at all of you and said, prove it. There's no way. There's no way that your business model is blowing the numbers out of the water. I was so cocky about it. I was like, there's just no way. And of course, you had your documents and everything that you could eventually put in front of me, and I could study on my own. And it just having, even if it was just a couple of years, your business was so new, business model franchise wise.
Right.
You had done it for many years on your own for your own family, but then you brought these others in to test the model, and they were doing it, and I was like, wow. I was blown away by that. I was blown away by systems that got to those numbers. I am not a systems minded creature. I can follow rules most of the time,
Most time.
but having them having them set in place and proven that they work and have numbers behind them, that was very solid to me. And it was solid to my unartist dreamer husband that I could bring all that information home from that conference and say, look, here's this. And he was able to feel comfortable. There was again lots of prayer around it all, to be able to try and do a business on my own that obviously I wasn't doing very well, because my numbers were nowhere near that. And I think my heart was still behind it all, but my business mind was not. And my business mind needed support. It needed development. It needed systems behind it that I was not creating. And you just had them all in front of me. And I was like, this is great. I just get to photograph little kids and all of that works. Yeah. So,
Well, initially, um, what were your hesitations? Like, did you have
well,
any big like, if I can't do it because of
there's investment involved, not only financially, which you put a price tag on anything and it's going to add a level of risk that's spooky. And then there's the provability of it, which required a lot of um, involvement physically and emotionally and getting out there and beating the pavement that spoiled rotten doesn't do for you. It
right?
shows you
How
how
to do it, right?
but
Mhm.
lots of cold calling that is really scary for a sensitive creature like me, that to have to stand in front of a school and have them the potential of having them either not let you in the door, or when they let you in the door and then realize you're a salesman, because that's kind of what you are at first, and then have to treat you like an icky salesman. Thought of that, I would sit in my car and have to pray myself to get the car door open. My hands would shake, my palms would sweat, and I would have to grab my little bag of cookies and my pretty marketing material and force myself to walk through the parking lot. Spoiled Rotten is not going to make me open the door there of the car door. It took a lot of courage. And
Good.
so knowing that it was going to take courage brought hesitation to, can I really do this? Can I really see if these things actually work? All these processes and systems and products and branding and all that jazz. Took a lot of courage. So there was hesitation with that for
Right.
sure.
Right. But did you think it paid off?
Absolutely it did. Absolutely
Yeah.
it did. The hardest part, I know we're not to that side of the journey yet, but one of the hardest parts is having to say goodbye to a lot of friendships that I've made along the way. The back of the house friendships and the front of the house friendships, not to mention parents that have parents would their kids would graduate out of preschool and go on to elementary schools and then beg to come back, and have me take their pictures at the preschool, even though the kid was in, sixth grade.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
Well, do you feel like you would have grown your business to the level that you grew it to without the
no,
franchise?
no, what came with that investment and that that journey, or at least the start of that phase of a journey, because photography, I truly believe, or photography as a business is very much a journey. But I know looking back that I needed direction and goals and systems that I could rely on to get me to those. I'm not a systems creator. I'm not a systems engineer. Never have been, never will be. Um, but I didn't have any of that. It's still not in my chemistry. It's hard, but artists are famous for being very loose in what their feelings are and what I feel like doing today and that kind of thing. Well, having some structure from the purple world and then getting myself into just weekly business networking. So I forced myself to be a part of a networking group because I needed the structure. I needed to be more of the business person than the artist, and no one's going to push me to do that. So having a business model that's proven to work, and then to trust that it will, and to myself to follow those processes. I'd never done that on my own. I know master photographers now that still struggle to pay their bills. They're amazing technicians.
Right.
They
Yes.
are not amazing business people.
Right. Right.
You know, they really struggle.
So do you think just the efficiencies of having the franchise systems was the one thing that maybe your independent business was missing?
The one thing, um, I feel like it's more of a collection of not just processes, but when you do invest in something, the desire is different. You push yourself to make it work. You're not going to spend what you spend to buy into a brand and then not sit back and or you're not going to sit back. I'm I'm just so stubborn. You need some of that. And so there's the drive to make it work because of what you've invested. There's the systems that you just got to do them. No one else is going to do them for you.
Right. Right.
So I don't know if I answered your question. The systems were a huge part of it, but I don't think they're the only part of it.
Do you think you were more efficient with the franchise than how you were doing things before the franchise?
Absolutely. I had to answer to Melissa. I didn't have a Melissa before. the the I don't know. It's not that you were I didn't look at you as needing to prove anything to you,
Not
but when you come to work alongside someone, you I don't know. It's you do respect. And when you respect someone, you desire that back. It's a human way of doing things. And if you say you're going to do something, your word means a lot. It really does. So,
Okay. So let's talk about training because you came in with 13 years of experience and you're a certified professional photographer. You are a fantastic, amazing photographer. But let's talk about training. Like, do you feel like you needed to go through the training? Because there's things that we do differently that you had to kind of adapt, right? So let's talk about like what kind of support you, the training and then the support when you initially got started.
so like I said, artists are kind of loose in their way of thinking and doing things and feelings and all that stuff. Well, when you go through a process that's a required training to learn systems, it's foundational. And sometimes photographers need just solid foundation to fall back on. And I knew that there were things that wouldn't be new to me when I went through that training,
Right.
but I knew that there are things that there would be, and there would be good reminders. And just I learn absolutely from repetition, and I need it beat into me. And showing I mean, we had cameras in our hands almost every day at that training, which is
Right.
exactly what I needed.
Hmm.
And if we sat through training and if we had sat through training and been had in front of like a presentation type of style where you've got a screen in front of you and here's how we do it. If there was more of that than there was hands-on, here's where you set the lights, here's how you help, all this stuff. Um, I don't think it would have sunk in as much. I know I needed the everyday, I needed the hands-on, I needed that constant repetition. And even though a lot of it I'd done before, but having it, nope, this is how the purple world does it, and this is what it feels like. I needed that before I got back on that plane and came home. And it was all good. Even though I had done a lot of it before, what was more impressive to me, though I will tell you, is that the other person that was going through training with me had never touched a camera before in her life. And I mean,
Not a
what
professional camera, yeah.
it
Yeah,
was amazing.
yeah.
She'd gone through the exact same training. We were sat shoulder to shoulder the whole week, 2 weeks, and she was producing the same quality level that I was at the end of those 2 weeks. She didn't have the confidence behind it.
Right, right.
You can't sell someone confidence. You can instill with them processes and show them that this works and do it, and they'll eventually gain their confidence. But that was amazing to me. And I will say that in the training that I've done with people that have come on my team, I have instilled that level of snobbery as far as standards go. And I've tried my darndest to help them understand they have more skill level. By the time 1 season to 2 seasons, 6 to 12 months worth of having a camera in their hands, they have more confidence and skill level than any entrepreneur photographer I think I've ever met that's tried to do it on their own. But it's what they know, and they don't realize that there's a whole other photography world out there where people
Right.
trying to do it on their own. So it's an awesome training process. Um, so does that answer your question?
I think so. Now, okay, so this one's I think gonna hit a little deep because right now you're like footloose and fancy free. You sold your business, but think back when you were into the grind of the business, right? So let's talk a little bit about what your life looked like during season and then off season.
Hmm. That's I think, a tough balance for anybody that's lived through it's, I don't know if a roller coaster is the right way because roller coasters kind of stay at the same speed. They just go up and down. Whereas the seasons that we experience as Spaldron photographers, it is pedal to the metal, so many moving parts. You're not just juggling 15 things, but you're spinning 17 different plates. And and then you fall asleep and you wake up and you're just in the mode. You just got to just dig in your and put your head down and just get it done. A lot of that's work ethic and just how bad do you want it. But in the knowing that there's a breath that's about to come, whether it be 6 8 weeks over the holidays or whether it be 2 or 3 months during the summer, you know that that breath is coming, so you can endure the craziness during the very fast paced, all of it, and you get it done. I How do I feel about, I don't know, again, it comes back to how bad do you want something. That's kind of the simple question in anything in life. Do you want it bad enough? You'll figure it out.
Because you
And
grew your business to be pretty large.
it was what I wanted. It could have been larger. I knew emotionally I did not want to. I liked the very hands-on at all of my accounts on as well as my staff. So the emotional and personal investment that I would make into them took a lot as far as the just emotional stress for me. But I'm such an emotional sensitive creature that it's
Yes.
going to affect me a whole lot more than it would other people.
But it
um,
was so fun to watch you because I don't, you can't go back and tell everybody and everybody understand like the relationship that we've had and the first time that you let one of your teams go out without you and
whew,
to see you go from, a solo owner operator to a real leader and trainer and getting your teams going. It was just fun to see you transition, right? Just from being that, relying on yourself for everything to having teams and training photographers. And now that I've gotten to actually, meet and train your other photographers that you had already trained, like they're trained, like you trained them and you built this business where you were no longer the solo person that had to do it. So just talk a little bit about that transition from going to owner operator to leader and then business owner.
um, every step of that journey, from trying to build the business and seeing if the model works to solidly having it work, and then eventually, and then slowly growing to being the more of the management leader than the technician. All of those steps were just, in my opinion, if I didn't have faith, if God wasn't a part of my journey, I'm not sure you and I would be here today, Melissa. It's just I didn't do all of that on my own. I think that God honored every single step of it, and again, courage and all those things that God blesses you with. Um, letting letting go of control, because your schools that love you initially, and they love what the brand and all the processes that come with it, but then eventually you step further and further back and you push purple people in front of you, and they start to get to know them. And when you hear your school say, oh, we love them, oh, that's awesome, because I do too, but I want you to love them. And you can't make anybody love anybody. You just
Right.
have to love them and let them go, and loving someone like any parent. You love them, let them go, but letting go of your kids is different than me letting go of mine. And loving your team and letting them love on your clients, you have to have a lot of faith. You just do. So,
But you trained them and they did their job very well, which is I think that's one thing that, as independent seller owner operator photographers, how many of them do you know that have been able to sell their business for a profit?
well, it's interesting that you ask me, because I've always considered myself somewhere in the middle of two generations of photographer. I've done it 20, 25 years ish. And I know photographers that have done it 45 and 50 years, and I've known photographers that are just getting started, and everybody in between. So when it comes to watching the different generations age into the different phases of their career, I've been very, very blessed to be able to watch and observe as how they've done it. I've seen people burn out. I've seen people, give it a year or two and I'm like, nope, I'm done. I've seen the ones that have done it all the way through until they've hung up their camera and never took another photo. I have seen, but very few photographers sell their business. It's so rare in the industry, because a lot of them built it all around themselves and not around a product and a brand. And I I've I have interviewed what I consider a generation in front of me. So the guys that have done it 30, 40, 50 years ish. I got to sit down with one of them about 2, 3 years ago at imaging. And I asked him, how do you do this? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're the generation that's supposed to teach my generation how to condition your business to sell it. Because why would you go through a 35-year career and never touch a camera again and just disappear?
Right,
That
right.
didn't
Very
sound
sad.
right.
Yep.
Nope. So spoiled rotten has this lovely ability to shape it the size that you want it. The brand and the product are just are the absolutes, but how those that brand and that product is brought to your customer base, your clients, your schools, how you sound and act and be consistent. Those are things that all come together around a product and a brand. I didn't sell the brand. I didn't sell the processes and the systems. That's all there. But what I sold was relationships and a region that were consistent, and they'd have had me for the next 10, 20 years if I'd allowed it. So it's this interesting combination of how do you sell it and what are you selling? Because that there's just feels like there's a lot to that. And I spent a couple of years knowing that my contract would get to a point where I had to make a decision,
Hmm.
but I didn't want to make a decision quickly. I wanted to spend a lot of time thinking about what is this going to sound like, feel like, who is that going to be? How are the relationships that I have loved? And they love me. I went from I've experienced schools where they're like, oh, it's picture week to turning that on its head to oh, the picture people are here.
Right.
And that's the way it should be at every school. Well, how do you do that? Relationship. Well,
Sure.
how do you sell relationships, Melissa? How do you do that?
I don't know. You can't really do it. Yeah, well, we're so big on culture, right? We absolutely want people that fit our core values. And I think you and I started having conversations maybe 2.5 years ago about, hey, what's this going to look like at the end? What am I going to do? How am I going to find somebody who loves it as much as I do? And you did, which was like, I just so tickled that you were able to find somebody to sell your business to that would kind of live out your legacy, right? Because you've created all these things. You have so many schools and brands and directors that just love you. Like you were able to find somebody that I feel like is going to continue your legacy, which is
Well,
amazing.
like I said, lots of prayer. My prayer over the past couple of years truly has been God, just bring me the right people. And not only did he, but they were already there. And, to, like you said, you have people, you find people that fit your core values and that kind of thing. And I had found the person, or it was that person was brought to me, and they loved how it was fitting in their lives at the time. They loved what we produced and how we did it. So when the time came for that opportunity, they were ready, which was really cool.
Which kind of brings me to, which is it's kind of interesting and neat the way it's kind of worked out. But let's talk about retention. Like, did very rarely that I know of you like lost a school. But I know that it does happen some, right? But were you able, do you feel like you were able to keep your clients? And now that you've sold your business, I'm privy to like, like still the accounts are going on, like they haven't lost any accounts that I know of.
Mm-mm.
So
Nope.
talk about like how you were able to keep your
Well,
clients.
from the client, which is the preschool's perspective, the parents don't know anything really, the people that are buying the photos. So those are customers, right? And then your clients are the ones that you have relationships with, your directors, your owners. Um, well, from their perspective, we'd already booked the season. The season that transition had was about to happen. So, I mean, we officially signed everything right in January. So I knew, I mean, I booked my seasons always 6 months before. So we started booking the spring season last fall. I did.
Right.
And I knew that this transition was coming. Did my clients know it? No. But what I always wanted, what I always dreamed about, what I always figured to be a huge piece in this transitioning to a new set of owners, but that I would be able to stand in front of all of these schools with the new owner side by side going, hey, look, I've loved you guys forever. These people are going to love you for a very long time. It's time for me to step aside. So to make an announcement and the timing of that announcement. So I didn't go to every single one of these schools in January and say, bye, I'm out of here. Here's your new people. No, because I figured that that would give them the opportunity to go, oh, you mean you're leaving? So we could, it would, I didn't want to open their minds, the client's minds to, maybe looking elsewhere. They already had their picture dates on the books, and we are strategically visiting all of these schools as marketing materials being dropped off. So I can, it was natural for me to be there. They expect us to go and drop off flyers. And then, oh, by the way, here's your new owner. And the excitement for all of them so far is, oh, wow, congratulations. And then look at Lauren, oh, wow, congratulations. I mean, there's no, oh, wow, I'm sad. And there's no negative vibes in any of it, which is what it should be, because I'm selling a book of business and it should be part of that sale and part of that transition for every effort you can make for retention, every single effort. And to me, that is one-on-one attention for every single school, right as we're dropping off flyers so they can't back out of the date because they want the date,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
so most of these schools though you had for a long time. Let's talk about your, I know selling it and the selling your business and they were able to retain your clients, but talk about like your retention even before you started selling it. Did you keep the schools consistently?
I would say my retention was pretty high as far as the rate was concerned. Have I ever had schools come and go? Yes.
Sure. Yeah. We
I
all
want to
have.
say,
You
yep.
have
I
schools
want to
that
say in
go and
20,
then come back for
yeah,
sure.
that too.
Yeah.
In 2024, I think I had three choose to go to stop. There, or maybe there was two that chose to stop, and I chose to stop another one. There's always that.
Right.
As far as my effort, how I worked on retention was very much just specific to me. And I mean, some of the techniques are a lot across the board of the purple world, visitation and, just being a part of their schools. But I spent a lot of time on building relationships.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not just when we're going to show up to take pictures.
Yeah.
It's reading Dr. Seuss books on the
Speak
week
about it.
of,
Yep.
his birthday. I mean, you name it, you get creative with it.
Awesome. Well, okay. So all that. So two more questions. Well, three really. What do you feel like's been the most rewarding part of being a part of the franchise?
Oh, wow. Um, Holy mackerel. How much time do we have?
Um, I've got 14 minutes left, but I have two other questions.
Right. Right. Most rewarding. Um, all the relationships. And all the way down to those 2 or 3 little minute. I mean, it's not really a relationship when you're meeting a little person for a few minutes and then have to give them back and you may never photograph them again. But those moments from those are by far the funnest. I love the relationships I've had over the years with all the adults at the schools. I've enjoyed them all very, very much. And then of course the internal, the staff, the behind the scenes, like the meeting you guys, other franchise owners. There's so many. That's been a strong part for me in this separation, as because it all feels very final, and I'm, like I said, emotional sensitive creature here, so it's been hard to kind of face it and know what to do with it. But the rewarding piece of it is the hugs from little kids, and seeing the young staff that you bring on your team that, I mean, honest to goodness, from being scared to be at the school, like they're terrified to be there on day one, to by the end of the season, man, they've got kids hanging all over them. They love it. They're excited to take photos because I put a camera in their hands. For like, you want me to touch that thing? What is that thing? So all of those kinds of growth things, and you see people just really fit in and they love it. I love that. The psychology of what the purple world does is by far the most rewarding thing. It really is.
You really became such a wonderful leader and business owner. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. Okay. All right. So if you could go back, would you have changed your decision to convert? Or like, I know the answer. Like if they asked me to ask you this question, like, would you have done it differently? Like if you could go back,
I
would you
don't
do it
think the
differently?
starting process I would have changed. Over time, like I would say, you've heard of short timer syndrome, and that's something that when people say that they're done, you can kind of see them check out and that kind of stuff. Well, I would confess in the last 2 to 3 years ish, I had settled into how I do business. I was happy with the size that I was managing it. I was focusing on other areas of like team development more so than regional
And
growth.
growth. Right.
And I was happy to do that. Was it the right thing? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but it was a good fit for where I was mental health wise. And I was happy with the income. I didn't need to make more than what I was making. I was happy to do it. I was amazed. The thought that this little Michigan farm could make as much as I made is is really unbelievable.
But go
I
back
was
to the
great.
beginning, to the very beginning. Like, are you glad you converted?
Yes, absolutely.
And then what would you have done differently? I know you talk about like the last couple of years, and you're saying you were short timer, but like I didn't see that. Your numbers
Well,
still went
kind
up.
of like a short timer syndrome, but I was complacent in how I was doing it. It was
Right,
working for me.
right,
And I was not anxious to change and learn new systems and move forward,
right,
right?
right.
I was happy doing what I was doing. I was left alone. Hey, Heather's doing it. Let Heather be. But if I were to change anything, I probably should have gone through training again, probably by year 5, because so many of the systems and what I've learned about myself is that I don't learn quickly. Learning bothers me because I don't learn fast, and it bothers me that I don't pick up things quickly. So I just don't want to learn it. I'm like, hey, you know what? This works. Why do I have to change this? Oh, but I think having the because systems have changed quite a bit from day one to by the time Heather was done. So it was frustrating when there's new things that would be introduced through the software that I would have to catch up and go, oh, we're doing it this way now. Okay, what was that button that that? And then I'd call because I'm like, I can't remember the button. But it worked before the button. And, I don't know all the behind the scenes as to why the button showed up. So I think maybe having a like continuing education, like when we get certified for something, in order to stay certified, we have to get those continuing education credits. Well, Spoiled Rotten doesn't have continuing education credits. It gives us the option if we want to pay attention to
Attention.
that.
Yeah, you got. Do train.
I know you do, but I think having a continuing education course that the long term or the legacy owners could come and not only get refreshed, but to be introduced to things that could make their lives easier, even if it would be hard to learn. I should have done that.
Yes, yes. Um, yeah. And that's kind of the annual conference. We try to make sure that everybody gets caught up during annual conference. But I will say that people who have been doing it a long time and it's working, probably not so anxious to change a little
I
bit.
know it's hard to change when something's working and you feel good about it because you
You
know how
feel
to do it.
good, you're making your margins, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, all right. So, last question. What advice would you give other photographers that are already running their business, um, that are considering, converting their business to spool rotten? What advice would you give them?
So photographers that are not in the purple world,
That's right. Yep. So people are running their own business who are considering converting over to spooled rotten.
I would say highlight the 3 things that are the highest pain points for you. And if those 3 things can be answered or fixed by systems that Spoiled Rotten has to offer, whether it be training or constant support or proving that a business model works, or define the 3 things that you just cannot seem to get past, and see if anything purple can come in and make those things easier for you. Because if they can, you can still be the photographer that you are. You can still have the photography life that you want to live. But having systems and training and support and all this stuff behind you with proven things, stop fighting it. Don't fight it. Just step into a purple world. One of the things that Melissa, you and I have both, we were both part of the PPA old school. And for many years, people poo-pooed volume anything.
Right. They did. Yes.
Volume school photography was like, oh, really?
No,
You do
no.
that?
Mm.
It was so icky. And you have reshaped the voluminous of a niche part of the volume photography world and made it so beautiful and attractive that you can step into that voluminous and produce income. Let your kid go to summer camp, or help, there's you can fix you can produce something for a charity that you've always wanted to donate to, but
Mm,
you can still do the custom photography work that you want to do, but
right,
stop fighting the ego part. Oh, I can do this on my own. It's so stupid. Stop feeding the ego, step into something that works, and then shape it the way that it feels right for you as the artist business owner. And I don't know, you don't always have to do what all the other franchise owners are doing. You can make it yours as long as you're producing the brand, what the
right,
brand requires,
right,
and following and staying under all the values and all the things that a spoiled rotten photographer should bring into school:
right,
honesty and goodness and consistency and love and all those things that
right.
so
Well, I think you bring up a good point is that I think sometimes people who are already photographers think like I'm not going to be the photographer that I was, or I don't want to give up, my name. So if you're, doing photography under your own name, but then by being a part of our system, it just brings you so much training and support and marketing and the websites and the emails, just makes you, I think, more available to be that photographer.
yeah,
Like you
it
don't have to
gives
worry about all the other back end stuff that you were having to worry about. So you can be
no,
more of a photographer.
you can. You really can. You can do it as big and loud or as soft and quiet. I mean, I was always marveled by Mark. Mark did it and what worked for him. And he was just this gentle giant guy
Hmm.
and is very, very different. I mean, if all the purple people stood next to each other and they were not allowed to hear each other, they could just be them. It's so different for all
Right.
of them.
Hmm.
It is.
It is. It is. Well, I, for one, am truly indebted to you. You gave us a chance, back when we didn't have like back when I would have had just three pictures on the wall,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I'm just so grateful that you gave us a chance, and we've grown into something much larger than I ever thought that we would be, and we're
I don't believe
continuing.
you. You were a dreamer and you're
Well,
such a
maybe.
visionary. I guarantee you pictured this someday. You must.
Yes, and we're still growing because the part about growth now is we have to grow to be able to do more systems and make sure that we're going to be here for the long term because we have franchise owners that we just signed up this year. Like we have to be able to support them for the rest of their franchise, and that's my main goal in the growth is just to be able to build the company that will be able to support our franchise owners. So that's what
Well, I
we're.
have no doubt that you will build that. And you have done a marvelous job of figuring out how to delegate and still have the love behind it. Um, it's interesting. I'm not that leader. Delegation is hard, and I'm not. I like to think that I dream big, but there's different levels of big, and I that God designed my brain for the size big that I can dream and handle. Your little systematic engineer brain that dreams much bigger and creates this beautiful thing. I'm like, wow, wow.
Well,
It's created a great opportunity. My family has been very, very blessed.
oh, thank you.
My family, my close knit, like my kids and my husband, that know me very, very well. They're all nobody's freaked out but me. They're all like letting mom just settle and be okay with this transition that everybody keeps telling me I'm retired, and I'm weirded out by that because I'm such a worker, I'm such a doer. But to have the ability, what this sale and this transition is allowed is a very quiet time of just, what do I want to do? Think about that. To be able to have the ability, resources wise and time and physicalness, to be able to go, huh, you mean there's more world beyond just this phase that I've stepped away from? And I will tell you too, one of the absolutes for me, not only did I want to find someone to love it like I did, I needed to find that person, but I wanted to transition away from it when I still loved it,
Mm.
because what I didn't want to do was be burnout. Like I said, I've been able to watch generations of photographers and I've seen burnout, and I didn't want to get to that. I wanted to still love it. Well, how do you step away from something that you love? It's hard to
Hard.
do,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So to have this financial ability to be quiet and dream in a different direction, maybe Spoiled Rotten absolutely allowed that. And it was because of a bigger dreamer, someone that was absolutely comfortable with leadership, with love, and honesty. I tested in my own, like, you asked what was this the scary part, to do this. Well, to meet people that were absolute strangers and then to step into a relationship with them financially, because we were going to be married for like 10 years. We
10
better
years.
really like each other, right?
Yep.
um I, you the thing that I think comes down to what drives people. And when people are driven by the almighty buck, they're a different person.
Mhm.
And when people aren't driven by the almighty buck, when their heart leads them for good intentions and reasons, I know you got to get going, but the you guys held true to your reasoning year after year after year. And it was proven that your hearts are in the right place, and they always have been. And I think your voice has changed a little bit as far as because it's grown and it's had to get louder over here and quieter over there. And yeah, it's
Been
been,
interesting. I'll tell you that.
yes.
Well, I love you and I'm so proud of you.
I love you too. I'm very proud of you too. I'm sad that you're so far away and I can't just show up and say, hey, life is weird right now.
I know. Well, thanks for talking to me.
You're welcome.